Someone underestimated you and learned a huge lesson. Yes, sir. Let me say it louder. For my chosen ones in the back. Listen, family. Someone underestimated you and learned a huge lesson. Family. Somebody drop in the comments and say, don't underestimate me. Yes, sir. Make sure you drop in the comments, family, and say, don't underestimate me. All right? Now, oftentimes, y'all, when we are the type of people that we are, such as quiet, observant, okay, very concealed, preservative, you have to understand something, y'all. People take that as a weakness, right? People tend to think that you are incapable, you lack skills, you lack talent, you lack strength, okay? You lack having a gift. Whatever the case is, y'all, they see it as some form of weakness or some form of lackage. Family, just because you're not broadcasting who you are, it doesn't make you weak. Just because you're not broadcasting what you have, it doesn't mean that you don't have it. And just because you're not talking loud, it does not mean that you are a punk, soft, all right? What I am saying is, y'all, is that people will make an unfair judgment just because you are not presenting yourself as they feel that you should, all right? Somebody drop in the comments and say, I'm one of a kind. Yes, sir. Make sure you drop in the comments, family, and say, I'm one of a kind. See, family, when you are one of a kind, when you are a true chosen one, you carry yourself with dignity, you carry yourself with integrity, and you carry yourself with discipline. All right, family, you do not have to be out here kicking people in the back just to prove that you are a tough guy. All right, you don't got to tell off every clerk, person at the register, person at the window, just because they got smart with you. You don't have to. And it doesn't make you less of a woman nor less of a man. Reno, what are you saying right now? Who cares about who underestimates you? It's about what you know you are and what you know you are doing and where you're going. Make sense of what I'm saying, y'all? Drop in the comments and let me know, all right? But family, we're not going to get into a long introduction. We're going to go ahead and get directly into this video. But before we do so, y'all make sure y'all leave a thumbs up on this video as well as subscribe to the channel. Yes, sir. Not only that, y'all, but y'all be sure to ring my bell so you can be notified after every single video I post. Of course, y'all, we're outside connected with nature, okay? We started a little bit later today. Long day at the martial arts gym, y'all. Long day, family. Learn some valuable lessons as well, right? But it's always good to get out in nature, and also it's always good to, you know, connect with other individuals, right? But with that being said, y'all, I'm sending nothing but love, peace, happiness, and prosperity to the family, all right? And we're going to go ahead and get directly into this thing, y'all. So first thing is first. Number one, the reason why they underestimated you is because you don't say much, all right? You don't say much. Now, let me make this clear. I'm not saying it's a bad thing for you to not say much, right? In fact, it is best for you to not say much, all right? Once again, y'all, the scripture says that a fool utters all of his mind, but a wise man keep it in until afterwards. So it is okay to hold your tongue, not bite your tongue, but hold your tongue, right? Make sure you're not speaking out of anger. Make sure you're not speaking out of insecurity. Make sure you're not speaking out of depression. Make sure you're not speaking out of hurt or whatever the case is. And we all know the famous saying, right? Hurt people, okay? But sticking to the point, y'all, when you don't say as much, that makes people feel as if you're not assertive, right? You're not confident. You're not intelligent. You don't have this, you don't have that, just because you're not talking about it. You know, y'all, we live in a society to where if you're not posting or speaking on social media, you fell off, right? You ever not made a post, y'all, in about 2-3 days? Next thing you know, people talking about, hey, man, what happened? Where you was? I ain't seen you in a minute. You all right? Yes, I'm good. I don't have to live my life on social media, okay? Now, if you are a content creator, such as myself or anybody else who's an influencer, I get it, right? I get it. But What I'm saying is, y'all, just because you are living a real life outside of social media, it doesn't mean that you don't have it, or it doesn't mean that you fell off, okay? When you don't say much, it allows you to remain that mystery. When you don't say much, it allows you to save some for yourself, right? Somebody drop in the comments and say, I'm saving it for me. Yes, sir. Make sure you drop in the comments, family, and say, I'm saving it for me. You don't have to spend a lot of money to show people that you have a lot, right? That's why millionaires, billionaires, even thousandaires have thousands, millions, or billions, because they don't spend all their money trying to prove that, hey, I have it over here, right? For instance, you know, y'all, they got this thing called Forbes list. I'm sure y'all know about it. Within the Forbes list, y'all, it does expose who has millions and billions and trillions, right? But to those who don't want to be exposed, all right, because I think you can make it to where you can keep all that information disclosed. Y'all drop in the comments and let me know if y'all got some more information on that. But it almost will make sense to me that you can, you know, file some type of motion or file some type of document stating that, hey, I want my stuff confidential, right? I don't know if that's an NDA or whatever the case is, right? However, y'all, just because you don't see somebody in the Forbes list, it don't mean that they broke. Just because you don't see somebody in the top 10 richest men or top 10 richest women in America, it doesn't mean that they're broke. What I'm simply saying is, y'all, just because you haven't said anything about your accomplishments, just because you haven't said nothing about the move that you are about to make, just because you haven't said nothing about your new relationship, just because you haven't said nothing about that new idea that you are now investing into, just because you haven't said anything about it, it doesn't mean that it's not true. It doesn't mean that it does not exist. It doesn't mean that you're not putting works into action. It don't mean that. Somebody drop in the comments and say, I'm working silently. Yes, sir. Make sure you drop in the comments, family, and say, I'm working silently, all right? But once again, in today's society, if you are working silently, it means that you're not making no type of progress, all right? Instant gratification. That's what everybody wants. Get paid fast. Get laid fast. Have a family fast. Build a business fast, right? Become successful fast. Once again, y'all, it takes years for overnight success, okay? Moving on to the next one, y'all. Number 2, it's gonna be this right here, family. Based on their experience and not your ability, all right? Let me say it louder. For my chosen ones in the back. Listen, family, based on their experience and not your ability. What that simply means is, y'all, is that they are underestimating you because of what they were not able to accomplish or capable to excel or succeed in, and they are comparing that to your ability. See, the problem is, y'all, they didn't know that you were actually overqualified for the job. They don't know that you are actually extremely talented. They don't know that you are actually extremely gifted. However, they are going off of the fact that, hey, they told me I couldn't, and survey said I couldn't. Hey, they told me that it was impossible, and survey said it was impossible. And now time has passed over to you, and here you are talking about becoming the next big time rapper. Here you are talking about becoming a big time singer, right? A big time model, or being able to have an invention that's going to pay you decades after decades, matter of fact, centuries, y'all, from now. And they're telling you that is impossible. Think about something that is more realistic. You better go get you a job. This is what they're telling you. But you know why? They're doing that because they are telling you what you can't do from their experience and not off of your ability, right? You know, y'all, Jay-Z had an uncle who told him that he could never sell more records than LL Cool J, right? He was like, you can't sell 1 million records. That ain't something that you can do. You notice how they always say you can't do something simply because they know you, simply because they are so close up on your light, right? And they worship the ground other people walk on because they're so far away. It's almost like they're magical or something. Make sense to what I'm saying, y'all? And so Jay-Z said, hey, that's probably what you can't do or what you couldn't do. But he said, I proved to my uncle after I sold 1 million records like 1 million times, right? And he said, I really love this right here, y'all. He said that I honestly don't think he meant any harm. He was actually trying to save me from his disappointment. He was trying to save me from the things that he had to endure and encounter on his letdown. Make sense of what I'm saying, y'all? So sometimes, family, our family and friends don't have malicious intention or malicious intent behind them saying, hey, that's impossible. You can't do that. Sometimes they're trying to save us from our own demise. They're trying to save us from our own hurt, right? Our own failure. Not realizing that God created us to succeed. Somebody drop that down below in the comments. God created me to succeed. Yes, sir. Make sure you drop in the comments, family, and say, God created me to succeed. Make sense of what I'm saying, y'all? They are underestimating you based on their experience and not your ability. In other words, they don't know how well you can sing. They don't know how well you can write. They don't know how well you are able to perform. They don't know. They're just going off of, this is how it was back in the 90s, back in the 80s, back in the 50s. This is how it was. And since I failed, there's no way that you can succeed. Make sense of what I'm saying, y'all? Drop in the comments and let me know. Next thing, number 3, you have an unusual perspective. Yeah, y'all, I'm going to say it like that. You have an unusual perspective. You know, y'all, when everybody does something a certain way, and then this one person comes along and they just have a different perspective. They get the job done, but it's a different perspective. They're still going to condemn that, right? They're still going to reject that. You know why? Because although your way works, it's like you're telling me my way does not. It don't make no sense, don't it? It don't make no sense, do it? See, what I'm trying to get y'all to realize is people want you to do it their way and their way only. And just because you have found out and discovered a way and it actually works, they still will never accept it, right? Until it becomes popularized, until it becomes the way of life, until it becomes so big to where they have no choice but to acknowledge it. That's technology. That's the internet. That's computers, right? People did not accept the new way of earning money, the new way of learning. They didn't. Family, that's also AI, artificial intelligence. People did not want to accept it. You know why? Because it was foreign. It was an unusual perspective. You mean that this robot gonna take me out of business? This robot gonna take my job? Yeah. And so the best thing that you can do is embrace it. If you can't beat them, then join them. Make sense of what I'm saying, y'all? This reminds me of the famous basketball player Spud Webb. I think Spud Webb was like 5'11", 5'10". I know for a fact he wasn't no 6 foot, right? But Spud Webb was extremely short. And on his entrance into the NBA, you know, people talked down on him. They spoke bad on his name. You know why? Because they was like, he's short. Wait, he can't dunk. How he gonna be able to succeed and, you know, sustain in this thing we call the National Basketball League? How is that gonna be possible? Get out of here. Get him out of here. He had an unusual perspective. He was short. Most NBA players are what? 6 feet, 7 feet. And I ain't talking about low 6 feet. I'm talking about at minimum 6'2", 6'3". They got some verts. They got some height, some weight. Them boys big and long is what I'm saying. Pause. But the point is, y'all, is this right here. When you have that unusual perspective, people don't want to accept you because you're not like the norm. right? Somebody drop that down below in the comments. I'm not normal. Yes, sir. And the quicker you can accept that, you will realize that although I'm not being accepted and I am being rejected, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. No. Okay? It's actually a good thing. It shows that you are different. It shows that you are abnormal. It shows that the doors that you're going to walk into, it's going to fit you better than those who feel that I'm what this door needs. I'm exactly what they are. See, they don't need a person who is the same. They need a disruptor. They need someone different. They need someone that's going to change laws, that's going to change the system. That's you with your unusual perspective, right? When you come in the door, everybody's going to be dressed up in the same uniform, mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, right? Psychologically. But you're coming in with a totally different uniform. And that's what's going to make you stand out, right? You're going to stand out. But you're going to have to accept the fact that people are going to reject you at first. Make sense of what I'm saying, y'all? Drop in the comments and let me know. Next thing, y'all, is going to be this. Number 4. This is just plain out ignorance, right? Number 4 is ignorance, right? Like, people tend to make judgments off of things they don't understand. You know, people are afraid of what they don't understand. People are scared of what they don't understand, right? You know, I like to use this analogy right here. When it comes to a unknown martial artist, right? Let's just say this man is dressed up. He looked like a homeless man, a homeless bum on the street, right? Like I'm talking about, this man is toe up from the floor up. Holes in his socks, smell like trash, okay? But if you touch that man, he finna get his Dragonfly Jones on, right? Y'all done seen Martin, Dragonfly Jones. He finna get his Dragonfly Jones on. But what I'm saying is, y'all, is that it's pure ignorance to think that just because a person don't got the new J's on, the Alexander McQueen's on, some Givenchy shoes, some red bottoms, whatever the case is, just because this man don't got on those nice shoes, right, or have on some nice clothes, you think that he's a punk, a layover, a runover, someone who don't have the common sense. You think he's dumb or whatever the case is, and the whole time he's a martial artist who will put you on your back, break your nose, break your spine, and then get off on it, right? And when I say get off, I'm talking about get away with it, because he is defending himself, right? Especially depending on what state he's in, right? Because you have stand your ground laws and stuff like that. But that's not the point. The point is that if you underestimate a person from pure ignorance, which means the lack of knowledge, that's your problem, right? Somebody drop that down below in the comments. That's your problem, right? Make sure you drop in the comments, family, and say that's your problem. That's ignorance. Just because a person have all the fly clothes on, it don't mean that they are rich. They could be renting it. Just because a person is driving a Lamborghini does not make them wealthy. They could be renting it or borrowing it. You ever thought about that? But guess what, y'all? That individual driving that Toyota Camry, yeah, y'all, that Avalon, that Hyundai, they can have $10 million in the bank. But out of pure ignorance, you think just because they're not showing it, they don't have it. Someone underestimated you and learned the huge lesson, okay? Moving on to the next one, y'all. Number 5 is going to be this, family. Boosting their own self-esteem, all right? They're boosting their own self-esteem. I'm not going to stay on this too long, but I will say this right here, y'all. You know, when people boost their own self-esteem, it reminds me of the bully, right? The neighborhood bully, the school bully, right? The family bully. People who become bullies, it was because they were bullied, right? Maybe at home they were called fat, black, ugly, too skinny, too pale, right? Too fragile, whatever the case is. And then once they get to school, all they're doing is projecting that same energy onto someone else who actually is handsome or beautiful, who actually is, you know, nice looking, nice fitted, right? They are projecting onto them what someone else put onto them. hurt people hurt people. And so what it does is it boosts their own self-esteem and make them feel good about who they are as a person, because the base, the foundation, whether that is home, whether that is school, work, family, whatever the case is, y'all, they're not getting that there. So they have to go to innocent people and make them feel bad about who they are. Make sense of what I'm saying, y'all? They are boosting their own self-esteem. This is why they underestimate you. He can't do it. She ain't pretty enough. She won't be able to sustain. No, she can't do it, right? They're only doing that, y'all, because they're boosting their own self-esteem. Because guess what? Somebody told them that they couldn't do it. You see how that works, y'all? Somebody told them that they was not enough. See how that works, family? But with that being said, y'all already know how we do. We're going to conclude this video. Understand something, y'all. Someone underestimated you, and they learned a huge lesson, all right? But with that being said, y'all make sure y'all get one of these Yes Sir t-shirts, Yes Sir hoodies, book a one-on-one session with your boy, okay? Enroll into my social influence course, as well as check out any one of my books, y'all. I'm going to catch y'all in the next video. Y'all keep a rich mentality. Peace.